It is Molloy on Triple M. It's always a great day when Jimmy Barnes strolls into the studios. It's his natural habitat.
We've told you this before. Triple M royalty built this network.
He did.
Where he wouldn't be the same without him. We'd be recording out of a tin shed somewhere.
Wouldn't
The
exist.
Molloy Barnes Show. I can see it now.
That's right. Well, there's an opening, Jim.
Oh, count me in.
There's an
I'm in.
opening.
I'm in.
Jim's here because there's a brand new song that we're going to play in just a
exciting.
moment called Flesh and Blood. We had a little sneak peek last night. We were very pumped about it. And a new album that's been announced today, title track of that will be Flesh and Blood as well. Jimmy Barnes on Molloy right now.
And we'll get to Flesh and Blood. Congratulations,
We'll draw
by
Flesh
the
and Blood in a
way.
minute, yeah.
That is unbelievable. Before we get there,
Yeah.
I need you, Mr. Barnes, to talk me through last night because I couldn't be there.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where I just couldn't believe the ill fortune of having another commitment.
Yeah.
But I had one eye on it, and I watched it go down. And at one stage, I turn on the telly, and I see you on stage in a black kilt, banging out the new single.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what it meant to you? Because what a lot of people may or may not know is, apart from your working relationship, you are what I describe as best friends. You were thick as thieves. I remember going to see gigs of yours, and almost routinely Michael would emerge from backstage.
He was always there.
Your families was tight. You and Michael were tight. Talk me through what it meant to you last night.
Michael's. We worked together for 40 years. He's been my mate for nearly 50 years, and we've been through the worst and the best of things. We've seen the best of each other and the worst of each other. He's godfather in Mahalia. So Michael is literally flesh and blood. He's family, and his family are ours. We, like everybody else in this industry, and yourself included, I thought Michael was bulletproof, and it just, I had this record. We were excited to be doing this together. And I thought he'd be here, pumping it with me, banging the desk and telling you to play it. So it was a shock. It was just a shock, and it was a big empty hole. But last, it's been a couple of weeks since the funeral, and then last night with that memorial service, it just brought home to me how not only loved was he in the industry, but how important he was to the Australian. You look at that from that history from '73 through. Everything he did was solely to bring Australian music to the forefront, and not only Australian, but new Australian music. He always wanted to be on the edge. He always wanted to support stuff. Making money was a big thing, but it was much more about getting that music out there. He just loved it, and most of us would have nothing without him.
Yeah, well, I agree with everything you said there. You mentioned the good times and the bad times. Yeah. Everyone's your friend when you're flying, and you know this more than anyone. No one's been as big as you in this country. Yeah. But when you hit the ropes, or when you learn a lot about people
I've
when
hit
you're
the ropes a few times. I'm telling you.
I'm there with you. But you know what I mean. He that's when you learn about people.
Yeah, that's
and he was always there, wasn't he?
Yeah,
in those moments.
And in those times of crisis, I'd ring Michael, and he'd he was like my corner man. He'd get the cuts, he'd rub the Vaseline in the cuts, stand me up, wave the towel, and say, "Right, you've got another gig to do. Get out there, son." And keep swinging. He was my mate. But I thought that was unique. It's a unique friendship. But I know Michael did this for so many people, and people not necessarily in the industry. He was there for his mates all the time. He was an incredible energy, he was a force to be reckoned with, and and like I said, his family were mine, and mine were his, and we laughed, cried, fought. Did everything together.
You were like an extended family. I also like the idea that, as you would know, as I know, it's a pretty ruthless industry. It's a take no prisoner industry. I just love the sense of family you get from him, and he managed to protect that and nurture that.
I did, and you can see from the bands. So like last night, those tributes that were coming in from bands overseas. Bands that really they see a million promoters everywhere, all over the world. These guys were like Springsteen and Billy Joel and
Queens of the Stone Age as well.
They were genuinely mortally wounded by the loss of Michael. I love that Springsteen's thing when he said, he used to go into town, any town in the world, and to be a promoter who loved his town and this was his company and he drove it. Michael was the last of those guys in the world. He was the last of an era, the last of the big showmen like that. It was incredible, and I love seeing the pouring out of that sort of, that people could see that in Michael, because I seen it every day.
Yeah. talk us through Ed Sheeran. I mean, this is what blows me away. That bloke quarantined for 2 weeks to come out here and do that. Now, that's above and beyond when it comes
he's a mate.
to...
Ed and Michael were good mates. And Ed, I was talking to Ed last night, and he said as soon as he heard the news, he as soon as he got over the shock of it, he put in motion to get out here. He knew it wasn't going to be easy. He had to get letters of, to allow him to get in. He's only allowed in for a certain period of time, but he needed to be here for Michael's family and to tip his hat to Michael. And that's a measure of a good friend and how much he respected Michael. And it was so beautiful because he's a great performer. He got up there and he sang a couple of his songs, and you could see it was hard, but he was really good. And then he sang this song he wrote for Michael, and I was sitting in the front row in tears. But at the time, I was sitting with my granddaughter, Rosie, and she'd give me. I've got Ed singing, and Rosie's giving me a doll, and she's got it in my arm. So I'm sitting like this. If anybody snapped, it would look bizarre. But Ed was singing, and I was watching him, and he got 99% through it before he fell apart. It was a beautiful moment, and I know there was nothing fake or false, or it was so beautiful.
What also was beautiful was your daughter singing and your granddaughter singing as well, Jim. I've got to grab, if you don't mind me, just playing a little bit from last night. Here's Ruby.
She's 11.
Unbelievable.
Oh, man.
Unbelievable.
And it really did give that family feel, like you mentioned before, with the Gudinskis as well.
Well, you did that at the funeral as well, and it was wonderful to see.
At the funeral, when Ruby sang, there was, because everybody in the industry was there, they're all going, and all these people come up to me, like they're rubbing it in, they're going, well, you were okay, but your granddaughter's going to get a record deal.
It was true. And we were all sitting there going, well, what is going on? The other thing which I have seen, tell me how exciting it was to close that show with your
Good
song.
times.
With that roll call of Australian talent, all on stage together. What a moment.
Well, my wife summed it up beautifully. It was because it was we got up to do Good Times, and Jane said it was too loud and it was completely out of control. Michael would have loved it.
Exactly right.
And there was Ed and Kylie playing tambourines. The rabbi was up there, Mark Seymour, Vic and Linda. It was just beautiful. There was a cast of thousands.
After the funeral, I said to myself, never go on after the rabbi.
The rabbi was awesome.
Yeah.
And the rabbi bought a bottle of whiskey to the funeral last night. Yeah, and he said, "Oh, we must have a drink there." Rabbi, you're a cracker.
You could take him on the road with you. If Michael was listening right now, he'd say, "Shut up and promote the single, promote the
single." And by the way, I've got a tour of the rabbi coming up.
Well, we'll play the song now. We'll come back after it with more with Jim. Let's
hear
it.
No worries.
It's brand new. It's called Flesh and Blood. It's Jimmy Barnes on Molloy here on Triple M.
So I heard that for the first time a couple of days ago, and we straight away locked in and went bang.
I sent it to Michael a week before he died, and he was pounding desks and driving people nuts. The staff at Mushroom are going, "Oh God, we're sick of you already." Because
I heard he was playing it at home, right?
Yeah, he was.
His son Matt said that's a sign.
That's a good sign.
Michael
turned it right up.
So anyway, that was a good sign because Michael's got good ears, and I thought if he likes it, we're in with a chance.
Tell us about it because it sounds great, and you're not surprised that it sounds wrong, but it's a slightly different sound for you, and I just straight off the bat love it. You wrote it with Diesel?
I wrote it with Diesel, and I tell you, the rerecord was originally the concept because we were coming off the back of doing all that Jane Barnes band in lockdown. And so I thought, it'd be nice to sort of write, a family-oriented record, and maybe acoustic, and I thought it'd be like a follow-up to Flesh and Wood, which was 1991. But then I got in the studio, and me and Kevin Shirley, we ended up making this record. It's sort of the loudest acoustic record ever made. and when it was getting mastered, Bob Ludwig, who's the greatest mastering engineer in the world, who does every record from the Rolling Stones, Bruce Springsteen. But we rang him personally. We said, we want this to be louder than AC/DC.
Unbelievable. Well done.
So we just the record morphed into becoming it's about family. But if you know our families, and probably your families are the same, we're not laid back.
No.
We do go hell for leather. We go hard, and then we don't go home.
I was going to say, you're looking in pretty good nick this morning.
I'm
yeah.
good this morning. I'm
Well,
good this morning. You know what? I was so emotional last night. By the end of it, I
Sure
just,
you were.
and I thought, I'm coming into radio this morning. Michael would kill me if I came in here and was just,
Yeah.
although, no, maybe he wouldn't have.
What about the album? I mean, I'm overstimulated.
pumped.
So we've got the single. There's an album coming
Yeah,
and
the
a
album's
tour on
called
the
Flesh
back
and
of
Blood
that.
as well.
Yeah.
Album's called Flesh and Blood. We finished it, got it mastered yesterday, actually, and it sounded really, really
I
good.
can't
A couple
wait.
of cracker songs. And they're really personal songs. Some and there's a duet with my Jane on there. There's a duet with Mahey does all the backing vocals. Jackie and Ellie do a duet. The EJ does a duet.
I love it.
Diesel's on there. Diesel wrote half the songs for me. So
You say it's personal. I think this is the way you've gone of recent times through your writings and your music.
Yeah.
And we're just so grateful because it's a fascinating insight into a big life well lived.
Since writing Working Class Boy, that opened up all the once I could look at all that dark stuff. It's really opened up a whole new avenue of writing for me.
Well, we're really grateful that you've done it.
I'm glad to be alive.
Mate, I've got to say, who knew we'd all outlast Gudinski?
Yeah.
As you said, I
he's
thought
bulletproof.
he was bulletproof. And I tell you what, putting together something like that last night, obviously the Mushroom Group's in safe hands, right?
Yeah.
They're going to get together and do a good job.
I've been saying that. Michael had so much going and already on the boil, and I know people have been saying to Matt, his son, you got big shoes to fill. But I'm here to tell you, I know Matt.
Yeah.
He's going to walk in his own
got it
shoes.
covered.
Well
He's
done.
going to walk in his own shoes, and he's got his dad behind him.
Well, it's going to be
That's so good.
fun to watch.
Hey, Barnsy's at Blues Fest next weekend
Blues
as well.
Fest going
so,
on?
Yeah, it's
Take
happening.
your galoshes.
Yeah,
What are
you bring your
doing?
snorkel, flippers.
Galoshes and kilt.
It
That's
used to
the
be
look.
tents. Now we're having wetsuits.
That will be amazing.
Yeah,
So
incredible.
it'll be like an old Woodstock,
It
but
is
that one
going
in
on.
mud.
It is going on. There'll be mudslides for sure.
And the Red Hot Summer Tour all around Australia as well kicks off as well throughout Western Australia, and most of those shows are sold out. There's one in Toowoomba that you want to get your tickets for, then back in Victoria in October through November as well. We'll put all the dates up at Molloy. But
It's a good build, that one too.
it's unbelievable,
It's
isn't it?
really great.
unbelievable.
The Hoodoos and John
Yeah.
Stevens and Diesel
Oh,
and
your
Vic and
favourites.
Linda, Chris Cheney.
Come on.
We're ready to rock, man.
Cannot wait.
People want to see live music.
Oh,
People want to see
there is
live
a
music and
massive
great
appetite.
Australian
Yeah.
blue chip bands
That's what I love
and
about
singers.
Blues Fest as well, because it's just
It's all Australian.
it's an Aussie lineup.
Yeah, I know it's
I'll
crack.
see you
Amazing.
there. It's going to be fun. Thanks for
Such
coming
women
by,
know.
and thank you for talking to me about your great mate and good
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah, no, he was your mate too, pal.
Yeah, he was. And we're going to play the bejesus out of that single. You'll be sick of hearing it when
More
we're
flesh and
done.
blood
I'm already sick of it. Come on.
Jimmy Barnes on
Hey, Jimmy.
Molloy. Triple
Thanks,
M.
guys.